Hi, and welcome to the Future of Development podcast. My name's Anthony Amunategui, and I'm here to inspire people to find amazing careers in the construction development world. If you like our podcast, please make sure you hit the subscribe button down below. If you really like our podcast, make sure you hit the little bell. Aarni, welcome to the show. It's great to have you on here. Anytime I get to talk about robots, it is probably my favorite subject. AI or robots have got to be my number one and number two favorite thing. You guys all know, all the audience knows it. I'm giddy over that stuff in our business. So welcome to the show.
Thanks, Anthony. It's great to be here, and I definitely share your interest in robots and robotics.
Right. I mean, it's like, we can see the value of it and where they're going. It's even today, where robotics is, feels a little bit like the first cell phones did, right? I remember the bag phone, right? You kind of carried that big giant bag around, and the cell phone was, you carried this luggy thing around, and they worked, but they weren't that great, and they were really, really expensive. And then all of a sudden you had the portable one. That thing still looked like some sort of military device. And then, they got smarter and smaller. And today what we have, it's phenomenal, the amount of technology we carry in our cell phone. And I feel like robotics is in that same spot. We all know we love it. We all know that there are jobs that it's really easy for them to take over. Hold on, that's not the right word. We want them to take over. And as we're starting to really get the process for doing that, the hundreds of entrepreneurs, thousands of entrepreneurs that are going after it every day, we can start to see where that's going to make a difference.
Yes, I agree. And of course, there have been robots in construction already in the 1960s in Japan, for example, but somehow they never took off really. I guess because it's basically because they didn't have the infrastructure and the ecosystems that we are having nowadays, with all the software developers and so on, and all the technologies, AI and machine learning and computer vision and so on. So they didn't have all the other pieces of the puzzle, I would say. So that's why we are now experiencing really interesting opportunities and seeing robots already used on several sites. But to be honest, it's still early days, no matter what. Yes.
You can really see the difference where BIM technologies came in, right? Where the ability for the digital world to to measure the physical world, and for the two of them to combine, right? Where BIM gives you the ability to really take the physical environment, copy that and whatever process they do to do that, through LiDAR or through whatever measuring techniques they need, and being able to bring that physical world into the digital world, and then vice versa, right? We're starting to see those, that communication between the two spaces become clearer and clearer, right? And I think there's where the opportunity having a robot was great, but the problem is it was static. It had to be stuck in one spot that it knew, and you couldn't leave it unattended or let it go unannounced without having some concern.
Yes, and of course, most robots in today's construction are in manufacturing facilities used pretty static, doing some very repetitive work. But now we're seeing also robots that are actually on the construction sites are able to move around and do things that we humans used to do. But about the on-site robots, 90% of on-site robots are demolition robots. That was something that I learned when I was authoring my e-learning course on this topic.
No, I got it. We're seeing the demolition stuff happen. I think that's a straight one, because you've got the space stuff forward where, if you make a mistake, it's not really costly one as compared to when you get into finishing stuff. But I just had the guys over from Hilti, those amazing group over at Hilti, and their R&D department, and they've got some stuff that blew me away. They've got their new JBot robot that is now driving, with their total station, where now they can figure where they have a datum to work off of. Right now, they're able to really look at the job site, having a measurable spot for everything to measure from. And now the JBot can go in there and drill, the most tedious work, these drilling up in these high-rise buildings, hundreds of drills they have to do. Now that JBot can do those, pretty automatically, using that total station.
Yes, I've also seen that in action, and it's really a new kind of surprising application of robotics, to be honest. But also I've experienced Spot, the robot dog, on sites, actually 3 times on different job sites, and it's also very amazing. You can just teach it to walk one route once, and then it can autonomously do the same route again. But and also, if there are any obstacles, it can go around, and now it also has an arm. It can open doors and pick up things, and, for example, do some adjustments and so on. So it's really a new, very interesting application for data collection, for example.
I think that's a straight one. I saw the other day where Spot has a communication device on it, and where it could go around a job site and communicate with the folks in the field. And so I can just see a future really quickly where a foreman could say, "Hey, Spot, call Spot to where they're at, and I need to communicate with the architect. Hey, this detail number 5 is blah blah blah. Whatever's happening, Spot can look at it. The architect can look at it, and they can make some revisions to whatever needs to happen in the instantaneous, and have it right over to the person's iPad or whatever communication the device they have on there. And you can really start to see the future superintendent being this a robotic a person, right? This robotic a being that can go around continuously and continuously give feedback to an office person, or to someone who's managing multiple spots across the their construction world.
Yes, that's something that at least here in Finland, companies are really studying, and also universities researching on this area of what they call situational awareness of construction. So robots can provide information for that to be realized. So it means that everybody on a project can constantly be aware of what's going on, who's doing what, and what's happening next, and what has already happened. So it gives a really good real-time picture of the construction process, and that's something that we are here in Finland developing very eagerly. Of course, then there are robots also that can do some, let's say, for example, scaffolding or painting and plastering, rendering. Some of the maybe most interesting are those applications where you already have some machines doing work and you just automate those machines. For example, excavators. Built robotics turns excavators into autonomous trenching robots, and there are companies like Syracuse who are developing autonomous cranes, tower cranes. So that's also a very interesting scenario.
I know it's amazing how the start of this, right? Being able to have a site work equipment that can work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We interviewed some folks the other day that they're doing mining, and these autonomous mines that have dozens of trucks that are running around, 20 I think he had 23 hours a day of unmanned vehicles that are working on a mine, doing massive amounts of earth removal and mining. and there's one person in a group that's watching over them, and then for an hour a day they stop, they fuel them back up, and just recalibrate things, and you can really start to see how efficient that is, right? Something that took dozens and dozens of people to do, just a minute ago, now is being done autonomously, and with much precision, right? And even taking what's an unsafe job site, some of these mines are out in the middle of nowhere, and just they're not real safe places to work. Collisions and falling off mountains, and things that happen today. This autonomy that is presented gives it it gives it a much safer place to be, and they don't get tired, right? There's not fatigue, there's not this repetitive fatigue that humans get, and you can really see how through robotics we're making the world a safer place to live.
Yes, and robots also allow us to remotely control one or even several sites at once. One person can, for example, control like all the cranes on a large site from a control center. Basically, they are autonomous, but the person has to perhaps resolve some issues if the robot is not able to do that. But that's also very new. You can basically coordinate the process from another country even. So that's really interesting.
Oh, yeah, but with that comes fear, right? With all of this change, I mean, I get it all the time with a podcast. I get people, well, you're taking my job. Well, look, if a robot's taking your job, you probably had a pretty repetitive, simple job that wasn't very exciting to have, right? I mean, there's this. We're going to stop developing because we've got people that have these jobs that they're afraid to take the next advancement or go somewhere that's way more inspiring, right? Freeing them up to get out of this repetitive, anything that robots doing today, it's a very repetitive, consistent application, which really takes a lot of the excitement, the part of us as humans, that creativity part of us out of it.
Yeah, that's right. And as I saw somebody recently write about how she was looking out of the window and thinking humans shouldn't be doing that because he saw how dangerous and how inefficient that work actually was, and that's probably right. I agree that one day we shouldn't be perhaps one day construction becomes more like assembly than doing something from ground up on the site.
For sure, we're seeing those advancements happen where much smarter, right? We're able to do much smarter, much faster, taking people out of the places where there's risk for it. But each part of these things takes a little bit of learning, right? As we go through this, the problem is that everybody watched Terminator, and now they're all afraid that this finger is going to come in at them at the end of the movie and going to try to get them, right? They're all afraid of that robot. And the truth is, as we go through this, for sure there'll be some spots that we miss, and we do have to pay attention. We're hearing the warning signs of that today. We don't want to get this into a place where people don't pay attention to places that could be concerning. But at the same time, I think we're more apt to see where robots are going to enhance our lives, just like everything else has. I mean, you wouldn't go back and say we don't need glasses anymore, right? I mean, you wouldn't go back into the world and say, well, augmenting our lives with glasses was a mistake. We should go back to walking around without glasses on. I do not want that. I will be bumping into things all the time, and today I can look at glasses and say, they're great. It's been an augmentation of my life that's helped me see way better. I can read computer screens. I can do things that I can see things I wouldn't have seen without them. And I think the same thing's happening with robotics as we make these advances, as we make these changes, and we start to go in there. It's hard to see where it's going to take us, right? I mean, it's hard to know that. I mean, I can't imagine when the car was built, they could ever imagine Uber, right? I can't imagine that the guy that's sitting on a horse, and all of a sudden a car comes by. They couldn't have imagined Uber. They cannot imagine that you'd hold this box in your hand and you hit a couple of magical buttons and a car would show up. But today we've taken those advancements to places, and I think the same thing is going to happen with robotics and AI as we start to look at these technologies and we start to take the places where they're life suckers out of us, the places where our the work that isn't inspiring us, right? It's really putting us in spots where, well, people took it to be safe rather than inspired, and now I think we'll see the ability to free those people up to go do something that really is much more inspiring for our world.
Yes, and definitely we also have many problems in construction that uh, everybody knows the problem of productivity. So recent research in here in Finland and also elsewhere has shown that an average construction worker uses just about 30% of their time on the site on value adding tasks. So 70% of what they are doing is not actually adding value, it's just waste, time wasted, and of course money wasted. And that's something that when robots can help us, they will increase the amount of value adding work for everybody. And I think that's a really interesting feature and benefit that we are going to see. And the other thing is that everybody's now very interested in sustainability and CO2 emissions, and construction is notoriously bad in that and I think that robotics, prefabrication, as you told, as you said, accuracy will lead to a situation where we have much less material waste than we are having nowadays. So much less stuff ends up in landfill. Like 13% of everything that you bring to a construction site ends up in landfill without ever being used. That's scary.
I think that number in itself should be enough to wake up the world. Hey guys, we can't keep building this way, but it sounds great to say that, for, we're a well-developed country, right? We got a lot of stuff out here. Like, all right, maybe you guys could up the ante a little bit, but you get these small little developing. I was in Africa last year and beautiful, right? But the amount of development that's happening there, they're like, hey, you guys wasted all that energy building your country and you got away with it. Now you want us to do all this eco-friendly stuff. We want that cheap construction build out, the cheap materials, and we're going to waste some stuff. And, it's hard to get everybody on the same appetite. But, I think what we're seeing is, especially here in the States, the 13% of the material that just gets wasted on a job site, that doesn't even take into consideration before we even start construction, right? I mean, if we look at our business before we start a project, let's just take a $400,000 build out of a restaurant, right? Let's say we're going to build a small little sandwich shop. We're going to spend $400,000 to do that, right? And now we're going to invite 5 contractors to come bid that. It takes my company, it takes our company, it's probably somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000 to go bid a project properly, right? To get all of our subs to go out there, to get the time, to get our team to go out there, to go look at the site, to go bring the estimates in. We have probably 25 or so different subs on contractors on a project, and on each one of those line items, we're getting several bids for each line item. Let's say that it cost us 10 grand. Right? Let's say that there's 25 subcontractors and it's costing each one of those. Let's just imagine they have to stop their day, print the prints out, go do an estimate on it. They got to communicate back and forth with the client with us to try to win the bid. Let's say it costs them, $1,000 to $2,000. There's 25 of them. That's 50 grand. But you know what? We also have 3 of them per line item. So now you've got, 50 grand times 3. That's $150,000. We've spent 10. They got $150,000. Oh, by the way, they've now called supply houses, right? So now they have 25 subs times 3. That's 75 subs, all calling other supply houses to get their material to take off. We haven't started construction yet, and you can see the amount of waste we have. And by the way, when we bid this thing, Aarni, you said you could do it for 10. I said I could do it for 9. Some other yo-yo comes in, says they can do it for 8. someone lied along the way to get the job. So all the work that we've done, right, all the effort we put in before we even got the job, we've have 2/3 of the people are 4 of the contractors are going to lose the project. There's four groups of 25 subs times 3 are going to lose the project. You might have some repetitive subs that bid on multiple things, but those people are going to lose it. What's that costing what's that costing our world in environmental impact, just in that aspect alone. So a lot of the stuff that we're doing in this business is kind of set up to make it much very difficult.
Definitely, yes, and the way we have developed the whole system, all the agreements and all the ways of bidding and so it ends up in having huge change orders, for example, and the contractors hoping that they will make it up with change orders in the future. But yeah, that's we have some what we could call structural problems in the industry, which basically make it very difficult to be sustainable and efficient and productive. Yeah, I think that everybody's aware of that. But the question, of course, is who should start the change? How can we change it? And there have been companies who have tried to rethink the whole process and also use prefabrication, robotics, and so on. For example, we had Catera who tried to somehow reimagine the industry a little bit like a technology company would, but unfortunately they were not fortunate in their efforts. But I'm sure that we will see more new entrants coming, and also perhaps hopefully the existing incumbents to rethink the process. Everybody's in the industry saying that, of course, it's up to the clients to require change and so on, but I would say that we should also, among ourselves, start doing something and not just waiting that somebody else is going to require us to change.
Well, the hard part is, our business is so plagued by, we're so, our margins are so thin by the time we go through this process. No one has the extra bandwidth to do it, right? We're all looking. I mean, I don't know anybody. If you come to our company, there's not a project manager out there who's got an extra minute. They're all heads down, working their behinds off. Our business is not, it takes a lot of hard work to do this business. I'd say it's one of the hardest working environments to be in, but we can start to see some things that make some sense. We start to notice, right, that a lot of the stuff we start with is where the dilemma starts. We start to look at, more than ever before, the amount of information we gather before we start a project, right? Someone's idea is that, oh, we're going to skimp on an architect, or we're going to skimp on site surveys, or we're going to skimp on environmental surveys. And we start with bad information, right? Oh, I find a discount guy to do this. Instead of doing 20 borings, I do 4. I'll just get the corners of the building, right? And then all of a sudden we get in the middle of construction, right? Remember, everybody's bid to their nothing, and they're all counting on this thing going perfectly for them to eke out a little bit of a margin. And they get in the middle of a project, and they find right in the middle of the building there's an Indian burial ground. Right now we're all like, right? No one.
Yeah, I've been there. Yes, I know.
We're all like, now talk about losing money, right? We're really
Yeah.
hurt, and instead of doing the work up front, and then, what's really even more funny is we gather all that information about a site, and then as soon as we're done with construction, all of it goes in the trash, right? I mean, here you try to go back and get some historical data about a building that was built somewhere. Maybe you're lucky and you find some rolled up plans in the corner of a basement somewhere. But today we're starting to notice that, okay, blockchain technology is coming out. This cryptocurrency was really brought in a cool, this blockchain technology, and you could see how all the information about a building could stay with the building forever from here on out, right? We start to look at everybody that worked on it, all the materials that we brought to it, all the things we learned about it, how we could take all of the technology, everything we've learned about that. And what's been plagued our business is that especially around here. We learn something in the business, and then we finish a project, and then what happens? Here's actually what it feels like to me. We all get this like amnesia, like somebody goes and wipes our brains free of all the information we learned. We just learned all this great stuff about how to do things smart. We'll never do that again. And we do it again. We go to the next project and we show up and we don't communicate all those learnings to the next one. And you can see how maybe, just maybe, we with some of this technology we're bringing to the table, we could learn a little bit better.
Yes, in fact, a couple of days ago, I was just discussing this same subject with a friend of mine, and he said that we should now start moving away from project thinking towards product thinking, so that we are thinking that we are creating products, and we can, as it with any product, you can also develop products and learn. And like, for example, take an iPhone, for example. What was the first iPhone like? What is the today's iPhone like? We have seen huge progress. So why doesn't that happen with our buildings?
Well, we've most of it is because we sucked all of the margins out of it, and there's no room for thought, right? We just heads down. I mean, if you look at most architects build the exact material. They have like one toolbox. They open it up. They go, oh look, I got metal studs. I got drywall. I've got these footings, and they build such a similar design. And every once in a while they go, oh look, I made a cute facade, right? They'll go, I went out of my way and I built a facade or one or two beautiful rooms. And the problem is it becomes so, they can't veer too far off of it, especially in this country. We have so many damn codes and code requirements that anytime they veer anywhere off of the fairway to do something really creative and amazing, there's some inspector that's in their gatukas busting their chops about it. And it's like they get slapped on the hand so many times. They're like, I'm not doing that again. I just want to get in, get out. I didn't get paid enough fees to do this. All right. Cause they didn't get paid to do something creative. They need to make money. They need to feed their families like I do. Right. So they get stuck and what do? They go to their toolbox. And they go, this worked. So they do the same thing over and over again. And then we all wonder why we're bored to death by the buildings that are getting built, and we're lifeless and not inspired. Right? Why our cities look like these form built buildings that don't move, touch, and inspire us.
Yeah, that's a global problem, I guess. And but for example, we have now tools like parametric design and digital fabrication that we can use to create totally new types of architectures and new types of experiences. But unfortunately, those are still pretty much pilot projects, and the mass of the big mass is still pretty much standard stuff, even though we now have the tools to basically tailor any space and any building and any facade to the to different requirements and so on. But maybe, as you said, it's this risk averse business where everybody wants to minimize their risks and nobody's really capable of taking any risks.
I was just in Dubai. I went out there for that World Expo thing, and it was really amazing, right? To see the World Expo. They had, and I think what Dubai is doing was really lit up some ideas for me. The king, who's got an amazing vision, the king of Dubai over there. He's got the sheik. He's got this amazing vision for his country, right? And it doesn't help. It doesn't hurt that he's got some oil money to help out in creating. Hey, we all have great ideas when we have an extra pocket full of money, right? I'm really creative when I'm loaded with cash, right? I can come up with all kinds. So, but here to his glory, Dubai has really been a creative. He's taken architects from around the world and brought the best of the best. And each place that has some innovative ideas. I was in the Museum of the Future, and that museum is the most amazing looking building I have ever seen. It is the most unique, is customized. Just the work that he's done on that. The buildings that they're building over there inspire my soul. right? You can really see where a city can be so much more beautiful than what we've let people get away with. And maybe I may or may not like get away with. That's probably a little harsh, right? To say let them get away. But most of it's kind of been out of necessity, right? But now it's inspiring, right? To go, wow, if you can do that, what can we do, right? Where could we go with some of these ideas?
Yes, and we started talking about robots, and I think that robotics is also one of the elements that will allow us to build these wonderful buildings, because we can combine the digital model and the physical construction where in a totally new way. In fact, this friend of mine said that instead of thinking about digital twins of the physical world, we should start thinking of the physical world as a digital as a physical twin to the digital model. So maybe
Love,
that's something. Yeah.
I like her. I love that. Right. Because it seems so much easier. But you could see that. I think that's a great way. I mean, that's a great inspiration right there to look at it and go, maybe we're the opposite, right? I mean, I'm over here barking all the time about how could anybody be doing 2D drawings anymore? Stop. Right? Why is not everything why is not every single building that's built today in a Revit type software where every component's understood? I hear the people in this office that are watching this right now, their ears bleed because I argue about this conversation every single day. It's just, it's time, right? And for those companies that are out there that are not embracing this technology because it's too hard for the couple of people that can't make that evolutionary or jump, it's like, right, great. Listen, if we listen to that technology, that frame of thought, we'd all be living in caves, right? But today, I really do enjoy driving an electric car because somebody had the gumption to go out there and go, yeah, electric cars are going to work. Well, how are you going to do that? Well, I might have to put some electric charging stations around this country, and I might have to do that. And by the way, I'm going to make cars that last 1,000,000 miles. And you know, there's going to be we got to be brave and go out there and take those jumps. When I see it, like when I see countries like or places like Dubai that do that, and that inspires me, right? Inspires me and hopefully the people around us to continue to be bold and brave to go after those kind of things.
Yeah, and you mentioned electric cars, and I would not have imagined, let's say, 6 months ago, that now today, by my house, I see robots delivering groceries every day, dozens of robots, and they are just like, now we are getting used to those. They are just part of the landscape, so to speak. So that's also that just happened.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. So you order your groceries, right? You go on
Yeah.
an app, you order your groceries, and boom, 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 a robot shows up behind your house or to your door with all the
Yeah.
groceries in a cart, and you just unload them.
Yeah. I just use the app to open the lid and take the groceries out, and then it actually plays a little melody for me, and you can actually choose the music that it plays before you order. So that's really amazing.
Look, that's what's inspired. I was with the folks from one of the pizza chains here in town, and they're building delivery vehicles that make pizza on the way to your house. So you'll order pizza, right? And their whole goal is to have pizzas delivered in under 8 minutes. Yeah, imagine you're sitting there with your kids, they're all screaming, you just got home from a soccer game, and all of a sudden, you look at all the choices for dinner, and you got one that says 8 minutes, and you got little Johnny or little Betty over there, tired from soccer, and they're like, well, I want to eat now. Pizza may not be the perfect thing to eat, but it's 8 minutes. And mom's looking at go, or dad's looking at going, boom, I'm gonna have 3 of these pizzas delivered in 8 minutes. And there to me is what's inspiring. You start to see opportunity where a robot is now making a pizza on its way to you, and delivering it to your house hot and fresh in 8 minutes. That's the kind of thinking that leapfrogs where we've been. It's not the same old thing better. It's not, for years they were trying to work on a 30-minute delivery, and they're like, well, if we get to 29, we're great. No, this is a leapfrog. This is 29 to 8, right? That's a distinct difference in the way that we manage the process for that, right? it's kind of cool.
Yeah, and you can imagine that perhaps one day on a construction site, a robot can deliver your tools and your whatever materials you're working with, or all the panels and so on, because nowadays construction workers use a lot of time. Actually, it's tens of percent of their time just fetching things and trying to find where the stuff is.
Two things we've learned is move deliveries to where the people are, and move the porta potty closer to you. Right? I mean, nothing worse than having a porta potty. Someone said, "Well, that's a convenient spot for the porta potty guy to come pick it up at." You're like, "Great," but now we have 150 workers on a job site going 25 minutes over to the other side of the job site to go to a porta potty. And if we just move them to the floors they're working on or the places they're at, we could find a crane that could deliver to the porta potty guy a little bit efficient. So we start to learn, that's the stuff where I think the breakthrough is as we look at artificial intelligence in the design world, right? As architects really become creators of ideas, maybe even inspired by the digital world. I love that because before this podcast, I never thought that way. You've moved my need. I love when that happens. Like there's a trigger that just happened in my brain. It's like, man, how about having the digital world inspire the physical world? I never even, that wasn't something I thought about. So, all of a sudden AI can now look at something in the digital world and now create designs and plans to do that. But not only that, but as it designs it, it can go to the specifications and look for the best products, not just the toolbox that they had before, but start to look at materials and delivery and availability that will match the schedule and the long-term benefit of the project, rather than the short-term benefit of an architect getting a project done on a budget, right? Looking at what's the right product, what's the availability, what's going to work for this. So as it's designing it, right, it's pulling from the entire marketplace. Where's the product at? How fast can I get it here? What's the travel time from there? It can, right now, you and I might be able to do one or two aspects of that. We might be able to take a part or piece of those ideas and maybe go look and go, all right, I can get drywall from this plant over here. Or I can get cement from this plant over here. You might get to, let's say, 30 aspects of a design. This can now, AI will be able to do hundreds and hundreds of aspects of synergies that will work for design as it gets developed. I see that being a great opportunity.
Yes, and by the way, I have my own podcast also, and I interviewed a couple of months ago a guy from Finland whose company is developing a metaverse. they built an island in the metaverse, and now they are selling land. You can buy land on that island and develop your own projects there, whatever you want. Of course, they have some rules, but still. And it's amazing that now people are, because they are not happy with the physical world, they're actually going to the metaverse and imagine and realize their ideas there, which is amazing.
I would tell you that when people were talking about the metaverse, I thought to myself, this is a year ago. I'm like, those are those gamer kids or those people that play video games. That sounds cute, but we're never going to do that. That's never going to happen. And about 6 months ago, one of my nephews, it was his birthday, and I bought him an Oculus. And I sent it to him, and he's like, "Uncle, this is great. I love this thing. It's great." And I'm like, I don't know what he loves about it so much. And I went and bought one. And I just can't be a month I've had this thing. And I can tell you right now, I see it. I can see it. It's an amazing, for me, I love traveling. I love discoveries. And that Oculus gives me the ability to go and discover things I've never seen before in moments, right? I was traveling the mountain plains and cities and traveling in 3D worlds where I could travel there. And I had an amazing experience with my family. We could talk about it together, and I could today, it's something I couldn't see. And I think that as we start to get to that environment where people start to see what this metaverse thing is going to be like, for sure, there are places where, as silly as it sounds to buy land in a made up world is, it's going to be something that people are going to love doing. It's going to be a space that you can't see it from here. Just like the stagecoach operator that couldn't see uh, you know uh, Uber when the first car came by. A lot of people can't see what that's going to happen now, but once you put those lenses on and you start to live and step into it. I mean, I'm only a couple of weeks into it, and I am blown away by where this is going. I've got a partner I work with in India, and I'm leaving for vacation today. But he said, like, look, when you get back from vacation, I want to meet in the metaverse. I'm like, so I've this morning I scheduled my first meeting in the metaverse for when I get back from vacation, which I'm like, look, that's something that wasn't available to me, a couple of weeks ago, right? So I think that's what's fun about where we're going, and if we get out of the fear part of it, like, oh my God, the finger is going to come at me at the end, right? That's the fear part. If we really get into the excitement of where this is taking us, the unlimited opportunities for development, it gets pretty damn exciting.
Yeah, I was today before this interview, I was just thinking about that how important visionaries and people with visions is in any industry and also in our industry. And I remembered why actually the reason why we are now sitting here, why I'm here, is because of a guy, Professor Erik Krokström, an architect. He was a Second World War veteran who is a Finnish guy, was a Finnish architect, and he studied in the mid 1950s at Berkeley University, and he saw computers there for I don't know what kind of computers they were, but basically being used for some sort of design work. And he got so excited that 30 years later, he wanted to have his own computer at his office, and I was one of the lucky persons to be invited in to work there and to develop those systems, and we were pioneering here in the Nordics with our projects, and it was because of that guy. One guy had seen something and got so fascinated, and then he drew together a group of people and architects, and every one of us were part of that change that is now happening. And so visionaries, individuals with courage,
Yeah.
is terribly, it's really important, even though we have all this technology.
No, it will continue to be inspiring. You've got me inspired with the courses that you're running. The classes that you're doing with robotics. Tell me about how'd you set that up? What was the thinking you had, and how's that starting to lay out? How are those coming together? How are those meetings coming together, and how's that performing?
Well, yes, because as I said, I have some experience in robotics firsthand here in Finland, and I thought that perhaps one of the things that we need to know is how much is hype about robots, what is hype and what is reality, and what can we expect, and that's why I started to interview developers and the people who are researching these things, doing research on these things. And I just started collecting information and formulating it into an e-learning course. So basically, it's something that you can take whenever you want, but we are also augmenting it with real live discussions with developers and people who are using the robot. So if you want to first to get an idea and grasp the idea what robots are, what they can do, and what's available right now, you can go and sign up for the course, and once you're there, we can invite you to join us live to certain interviews and discussions with developers, and that's one part of what I've also done live live teaching online and consulting, of course. And the pandemic, it really opened up new opportunities, because I've been a management consultant for many years, helping companies devise technology, business, and innovation strategies. And suddenly I had to start doing it remotely, and it has worked out pretty well, I would say. Now my clientele is not just here in Finland, but also elsewhere in the world. So it's really interesting and inspiring. And I'm hoping to do more of this e-learning type of thing. It's just perhaps one of the first that I've done now. So I think I'll expand that idea in the future.
You know, you have inspired me. Our pre-interviews, our talks together, you know, what your amount of knowledge you have around the robotics and AI and where this world's going, your vision of it is, it's great. It's inspiring, right? You've got a vision that is, that's worth tapping into. And I certainly want to have you on this show over and over again. You and I could talk for hours and hours and hours. If people want to get a hold of you, Aarni, and have these conversations like I get to have with you, where do they catch up with you?
Well, I think that if they are interested in construction innovation and technology, just go to aec-business.com. You can find me there, and of course on LinkedIn I'm there. But aec-business.com is the place to start, and you can see everything I'm doing there. And I have also a podcast and blog that is now almost. It was on the 12th of this month. It turned 10 years old.
Wow. So I can't imagine 10 years. I'm a newbie compared to you guys. That's inspiring. 10 years. What's the name? Let's get some shout out for that podcast. What's the name of the podcast?
So it is AEC Business. So architecture, engineering, construction, AEC Business. Yeah.
All right. Great. Where's it? Where can we get that? What platforms?
I think iTunes, Google, Spotify, and others. I'm not sure. Even it's all over the place, I guess.
Nice.
But well, you can find it. Yeah.
Aarni, I got to tell you, I love this conversation. You inspire me. Your work carries depth and weight. Your knowledge of this business is wonderful. I leave. There's an expression that my friend says, "My cup runneth over." And I went a step further and say, I drink from the saucer, right? We're having tea. My conversation with you was just really robust. I love where you're going. Your passion for the business is wonderful. I'm grateful to have you on our show. I look forward to having you on some more. I know you're busy. I'd love to have you on more whenever you can. I'll take all the time I can get with you, and I'm grateful for this. So thanks for being on.
Well, it has been a real pleasure for me as well, and I can, as I said, I have a podcast, and perhaps you could also be a guest on my podcast one day.
I'm here anytime I'm on. My team has, that's my gauntlet. Hey, audience, you guys know that how much I love you, and I'm grateful for all the service that you're on, and it means the world to us when you like and subscribe. So if you could take a second and just do that now, please. It means the world to me. It just it gives me some knowledge that we're hitting the right stuff. If you have comments, no matter what they are, please take a second and put the comments down below. We try to respond to all of them, and we're grateful for all the things that our audience does for us. So thank you very much for listening today. And Aarni, brother, I'm grateful for the time. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks for joining us. My name is Anthony Amunategui, always looking for people to bring insight into the industry, finding ways to inspire people to have amazing careers in the development world. If you liked our podcast, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below. If you really liked our podcast, make sure you hit the little bell. Thanks again for listening. Please share it with your friends.